Well, and Minister, this is an issue that's been, I suppose, already teased out in the discussion this morning. There's a well-acknowledged issue around recruitment and, in particular, retention within our defence forces. So my question is to ask on the progress that has been made on fulfilling the government commitment to increase recruitment in the defence forces by 2,000 by 2028.
Thanks, Deputy, by the way. The report of the Commission on the Defence Forces made it clear that the level of ambition for the Defence Forces needed to be elevated beyond that which it's currently operating. In that context, the Government approved a move over a 6-year period to a level of Defence Forces capability equivalent to level of ambition 2 in the report. This will require an additional 2,000 personnel beyond the current establishment figure of 9,500. But because we're well below the 9,500 now, the figure is actually about 3,000 rather than 2,000. In fact, slightly above 3,000 in terms of where we need to be by the end of 2028. The Defence Forces are developing strategies to achieve increased recruitment and to address the current shortfall in numbers. The target is to realise a Defence Force strength of 11,500 by 2028, incorporating an appropriate civilian component. The Joint Civil Military Implementation Management Office has been established to support the implementation of the overall transformation programme required to implement the recommendations of the report in the Commission of Defence Forces. A number of early actions arising from recommendations in the report are also being progressed. There are a number of initiatives currently underway to counter existing staffing challenges. General service and direct entry recruitment is ongoing and has resulted in 358 inductions as of the 31st of October of this year, with further inductions due to take place before the end of the year. A separate recruitment competition has also been launched specifically for Air Corps recruits who in the past were drawn from a wider general service recruitment pool. The re-entry schemes for former personnel have boosted specialist numbers in terms and conditions. The terms and conditions and scope of direct entry competitions remain under consideration, as does the maximum recruitment age for all competitions. The Be More recruitment campaign launched this year highlights the career opportunities available in the Defence Forces and also the wider benefits of membership, in line with one of the recommendations of the Commission on the Defence Forces that's well known.
Thank you, Minister. You'll be back in.
Yeah.
The root cause, or one of the main central challenges, is well understood, and Deputy Barry talked about it in terms of medical officers. We know that we're in an economy close to full employment. We know the terms and conditions elsewhere, and working conditions, and being able to go home at 5 o'clock in the evening and all the rest of it makes the Defence Forces relatively less attractive to people. So you rightly acknowledge that the numbers have changed, and in fact the direction of travel is in the wrong direction. My numbers have it that we're at 8,100 personnel in the Defence Forces now, which is the lowest in 50 years. And while we're recruiting in, I think, an intake of 450 in total, we've lost 375 people out. And of course, by losing those people out, we lose all of the skills, all of the experience that those personnel have acquired over the years. So there is a direction of travel, but it's in the wrong direction, and there's serious work needed in order to turn that ship around.
But before you can start building numbers, you got to stop the losses, and that's so we're at that moment now of changing momentum. I hope we have an enormous financial commitment from government to do that. We have a policy framework to do it as well, and we have a plan of action linked to an independent report that was put together over a 12-month period. So there's never been a stronger focus and priority, certainly since I've come into politics, on actually trying to rebuild and grow and expand and invest in and increase the size of the Defence Forces. But we are at the end of a period of reduction and losses. But if you look at what we've even decided in the last number of months on pay and conditions, for example, if you join the Defence Forces now versus 6 months ago, you'll be paid £5,000 more than you would have been before those decisions were made around budget time by government. So there's a whole range of things happening: pay, conditions, culture, equipment, accommodation, medical provision. The overall package is improving significantly.
We're over time. Ich habe Marco Kasi.
I would acknowledge that a lot of that increased commitment and increased focus is down to your interest and your genuine interest in this area. And I know you'd have a genuine interest in the Navy in particular. And I think we've never seen it more clearly demonstrated, the need for us to be able to patrol our own waters. And I suppose I'm thinking of currently, but I'm also looking ahead. We're going to see increased connectivity as we develop our offshore resources, particularly in terms of our energy resources. We're going to see increased connectivity in terms of energy, increased connectivity in terms of our gas connectors. They are obviously critically important. We're also going to see information systems, and there's a huge need for us to be able to patrol and control those waters as we begin to develop that. Ireland is going to become internationally important across Europe as we build super connectors, as we try to unlock that renewable energy resource. And it all speaks to that need to continue the work that you are genuinely committed to, Minister, and I know that, but to make the travel in the right direction.
Minister, to conclude. 1 minute.
Yeah, I live just a few miles from the naval base. I know it well. I go walking and running there fairly regularly, and there is nobody, I can assure you, more focused than me on getting our naval service back up to the strength that it should be at. We're about 275 people below where we should be. That is impacting on us in terms of crewing of vessels. We've just decommissioned 3 ships, not because we couldn't crew them actually, despite some of the commentary, but because they're old and they needed to be moved on. We're actually bringing in 2 new ships at the start of next year that are coming from New Zealand that require smaller crews and are much more modern vessels. But let's not deny this. There's a big challenge for the naval service in terms of recruitment and retention to get to where we want to be, so that we can ensure that the naval service can do what we're asking of them in terms of not only fisheries patrols and drug interdiction and the other sovereignty security issues, but also some of the new infrastructure that they're going to have to protect as well when it's built. But I can assure you there is an absolute focus on getting the naval service back to where it needs to be.